the same room. We share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. Together we stand in love's pure mind. Watching the world in love.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and watching the world. We have Stella in the building already. Thank you so much for the continued. Oh, my. Look at here. What a nice comment. So, I just want to say that you have won for today. So, definitely look out for what I'll send you. We're continuing the prize, although I did not announce it, but thank you for the continued support. As you guys know, I've been covering Luigi Mangione's case. It's the hearing that's leading up to his actual trial that starts September the 9th. And so today we're going to talk about a lot of the points that have come out in court. As you know, we thought it was going to be maybe a day or two, but it's turning out to be weeks because when Luigi Mangione was arrested, some 13 police officers showed up just to be a part of the hype. Can you imagine that? So we're going through each day, we're going through the body cam that they wore, and we're going through each individual back to back, probably all the way, all 13 of them. And it looks like we're having some sort of technical difficulty here. I'm not sure. Let's see. I'll keep an eye on that. Hopefully, you guys can hear me okay, but I see that there's a glitch. But at any rate, we're going through the 13 individuals one by one and comparing the body worn camera. And so, in this particular case, as you know, with Sean Diddy Combs, he had the attorney Mark Agnifilo. So, in this case, it's Karen Agnifilo, which is Mark's wife, and she's doing a good job representing her client. I just want to make it clear because a lot of people they say, well, because we have to be careful with these cases. When Sean Diddy's case was happening, if you reported in the beginning of his trial, if you reported something positive or you said his attorney did a good job or whatever, people tended to take that negatively. Oh, you a supporter of Sean Diddy Combs, right? No, we're just reporting the facts. That's what it boils down to. So in this case, I just want to set the stage and let you know that if we're pointing out things, mistakes, perhaps that the police officers are making, it's not to say that we condone whoever took the life of Brian Thompson. No way. They showed the video in court. Brian Thompson is walking down the street almost a year ago to the day, the 4th of this month. He's walking down the street. Maybe it's about 6:23 in the morning. He has on a blue jacket similar to mine. Almost like a guy that's in a good mood, upbeat. And out of the blue, from behind the car, here comes a New York shooter and shot him from behind. In fact, the police officer that was there today, his last name was Fox. He introduced it as being a very cowardice form of violence. That's the way he framed it, a cowardice form of violence. But anyway, whoever this individual was, namely, they say it's Luigi Mangione, he was lying in wait and he came from behind the car and shot this man from behind. Can you imagine that on the streets of New York City? And you can see Brian Thompson in the video. He hobbles along and he's turning around to try to see what's happening. He was not expecting to be shot, right? And he went over into the far corner and went down, and you could see this individual walk up to him. They have not namely stated that he was, and I don't like to use these words that are not YouTube friendly, but I'll say he was shot 3 times, or at least 3, because there was 3 bullets and each of the bullets had the different words engraved: deny, delay, and depose. Those were the three words written on the bullets. In fact, we're starting to see that as a trend because you know what happened with Charlie Kirk, the individual that went on top of the building and unalived him from the rooftop. He also wrote words, he engraved words on the bullets as well. But at any rate, it's sad what happened to Brian Thompson. And that's a track that's moving full steam ahead. And definitely, we do not condone that in any way. But even as an individual in America, when you commit a crime, you should be able to expect to have rights. That's a part of living here in this country. So we're going to address this case from both angles. And I have to be honest about it. I went to Sean Diddy Combs' trial for 9 whole weeks, every day getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And toward the end of the trial, I had some individuals on the left hand side saying, "Oh, we support Diddy. You should stay with us." And then the other side, "Oh, he's such a creep. How could you say anything positive about his defense or about Diddy? I thought you loved our side." So by the end of Diddy's trial, everybody's ready to take each other out. There's so much animosity and hostility. And even to this day, a lot of people have issues with each other. And my whole point of contention, even with Sean Diddy Combs' case, which I'm just trying to set the stage for this case, do you really want to hear the truth, or do you want to hear what makes you feel good about a particular case, right? So, in the case of Luigi Mangione, we're going to tell you the truth. One thing that I've noticed about this case that there's not a lot of people that are taking interest in this case. Now, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been in a situation where you needed surgery and here the insurance company is saying to you, well, this is going to cost 200,000. I had a friend of mine, he had a brain tumor, and the insurance company told him basically that they would not do the surgery, the stereotactic surgery, because it was $100,000. It was an aggressive form of cancer. So he lost his life shortly thereafter. Have you ever had a parent or someone, kind of like the movie John Q, right? Where they're fighting a big illness and now they have to fight with the insurance company every day just to try to get treatment. And it doesn't matter if you paid for this insurance all of your life or however long. Most of the time, there's layers and layers you have to go through just to get the basic health that you need. And that's a side of this story that a lot of people are concerned about too. And so it's important for us to address that. I sit with people in the courtroom who are advocates in many ways. And I'm just trying to help you understand why there's some people who are there in support of Luigi Mangione, even though he's the alleged shooter for Brian Thompson. Some of the individuals that are sitting there, I know the rumors, the media says, well, these girls are only there because he's such an attractive, good looking young man. That's not necessarily true. Some of them are part of different organizations. Some of the organizations are against the death penalty. So maybe for that segment, that facet, maybe there's 7 or 8 people. And then there's one girl says she's married to Luigi's AI. So for whatever that means, you could take it for what it is. And then as I'm sitting there throughout the day, I see young ladies saying, "Oh my God, isn't he fine?" Like today when he was walking out. But what I did notice about Luigi on the first couple of days when he walks into the courtroom, he would kind of look out into the audience at certain moments. But for these last couple of days, he hasn't been looking back to the audience at all. And I saw a few people get discouraged because they weren't able to make eye contact with him. That's how much that's how passionate they are about him for whatever reason, whether they like him for his looks or they feel some sorrow for him based on the scenario, right? Also, I've observed individuals sitting next to me that every morning when Luigi, unlike Sean Diddy Combs, when Luigi comes out and he takes his seat, they have three photographers. It typically changes. Maybe there's one constant guy, but they take photos of Luigi, and you guys probably see those photos throughout the day. Each day they release those photos. I've seen some people when they take the photos, they cover their face, they get down in the seat for whatever reason. They don't want people, maybe in their lives, knowing, or maybe they're supposed to be at work. I don't know, but they're afraid to show their face, or they just don't want to be photoed. I don't know what the case is. I'm just giving you a few of the facts about this case for those who are interested in knowing more about it. The big point of contention in regards to this case that I want to point out is that the police officers in this case are really taking on big heat. And I can tell you that the legacy media is not really reporting on it. And guys, I'm going to get to the comments in 1 second, though. Um, the legacy media is not telling you how much Karen Agnifilo, who's representing Luigi Mangione, I'm just checking something here, how she has really dismantled each of these officers that have come in. Basically, the call came in, I believe it was on December the 9th, in regards to there's a man sitting in McDonald's lobby and he looks like the New York shooter. That's the terminology that I've heard used. I've heard one police officer today, I think he referenced Luigi as the CEO killer. So these are different spins that people have put on it. At any rate, the call comes in, and the body camera, you could see, see that there's two individuals in the car. You have the main officer, his name is Detwilder, and then with him you have Officer Fry. Officer Fry has basically been an officer for 1 year, and half of that 1 year he spent in training to become a new officer. Now, one of the things that came out under cross examination for Officer Fry is that the police officers have the right to lie to you. They also have the right to create a ruse. And I think this is a point that a lot of people take, they don't like it, especially sitting in the courtroom, because you get to hear how the officers can come up with all of these little gimmicks to get you or to get the American citizen to confess, or whatever angle they're trying to get to. So when Officer Deadwilder took the call, he did not believe. He's like, there's no way that this, he's thinking he was being sarcastic because he didn't think it would be the New York shooter, right? So then he spoke to his whatever his, I think is Hedgeway or something like that. Henley. Lieutenant Henley. There's a lot of names to remember. Lieutenant Henley told him, listen, if this is the New York shooter, I'll buy you a hoagie, right? So they had semi bet or whatever going on. I wouldn't say a bet, but you get my drift. So when they went into the actual McDonald's, then he proceeds to arrest Luigi. Now, they have released a lot of video in regards to this case. So I'm going to stop now explaining, and we're going to look at some of the videos that have come out in regards to this case, and I'm going to explain it to you. I'll stop and try to give you an idea of more about this case. If you do have an interest in the fact that perhaps a man walking in the streets of New York was gunned down, then this is a good case for you probably to follow. But also, if you take issue with the health system in the United States and corporate America, and how people often are tired of not being able to get the help that they need, especially from healthcare, then you would be probably interested in this case to see how it goes. Because in this case, it came out today in court that when Luigi actually went to the courthouse the day of his arrest, right, on December the 9th, 2024, he mentioned, now this is alleged, this is what the officer is saying that he said, that all of these people are concerned about a mass murderer? Now, a lot of people thought that Luigi was referring to himself as a mass murderer, but I don't think that's the case. I think he was calling Brian Thompson a mass murderer. That's if it's Luigi that said it. Under cross examination, the attorney Karen Agnifilo really pointed out, and she made a good point of how this officer keeps turning off his body camera. So why do you conveniently turn your camera off when you allege that Luigi is doing certain things? Okay. So I'm going to get to a few of the comments. We're going to go through some of the video. And again, I know a lot of people may not be interested in this case, but I'm definitely very interested in it. And so we're going to get to it. We have Stella. Stella says, like, share, and subscribe. Yes, guys, if you can hit the like button, share, and subscribe. Patrick Curley says, bottom line, he murdered a man in cold blood. All right, no doubt about it. If it's him, he's still innocent until proven guilty. I know it might sound crazy to some, but that's the rule. Okay, looks like I'm having some technical issue, man. Okay, One Love says groupies are a problem. Okay, he definitely has a good 100 strong of individuals that really like him a lot, so much so that they stay out in 20-degree weather for 2 or 3 nights, sleeping in tents or what have you, just out on the street. That's the kind of support that he has. Although you may feel the way you do about him, there are many that support him for whatever reason. Norfolk says, embrace being bald. That hat looks dumb. Okay, thank you, Norfolk. I appreciate your great comment. All right, Stella says, let's double tap the screen to like the show. Thank you. And guys, I read all the comments, even if they're a little bit on the silly side. Sandra says, I'm Christian and plan to stay that way. Okay, so does Christian tell us about it? How does that fit in with Luigi? Perhaps you have some insight. Scott Henrik says, insurance companies are crooked. Okay. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people have felt the heat from it. Okay, Islam. God is one creator. It's one. Jesus, he's the prophet. He's delivered to worship one. God, I call you everyone to read the Quran and come to Islam to worship alone. Okay, all right. So we have someone here from Islam. We welcome everybody. AI Smart Cities, nice to have you here. It says, what is Luigi's family's net worth? Well, according to rumors, they are of great means, but I cannot answer that question. I have not thoroughly researched it, so I won't delve into it. Okay. Stella says, welcome in and thank you for joining the Watching the World 777. Please be respectful to the host and everyone in the chat. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Okay. Very good. So before we move on, I just want to make sure that there's no, okay, we have Mark in the building. Okay. So if you really following this case, put a 1 in the chat. I'm just trying to see who's really paying attention to this case. And Stella, I'll leave it up to you. If you want to get rid of the trolls, that's on you, but I'm not bothered by it. All right. So even though we're having technical difficulties, I'm going to try to play this video, guys. We'll see what happens here. Let's tune in.
There's a major update in the pretrial hearing of Luigi Mangione, exactly 1 year to the day since he was arrested at a Pennsylvania McDonald's. A police officer just testifying in a New York court about statements Mangione.
Okay, so from this particular shot, you can see that they started the arrest process for Luigi Mangione. He was actually sitting in this corner. And just think about it, in this particular frame, look at how many officers you can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 7 officers arrived within 20 minutes. I'd say within 40 minutes, you had 13 officers. And it came out in court that they have less than 30 officers that patrol throughout the morning. And roughly half of them were standing in McDonald's and the defense is doing a good job trying to show that they were trying to receive some sort of clout. But at any rate, let's keep moving.
He made about the large media presence outside of the Altoona, Pennsylvania courtroom where he made his first appearance. News Nation's Jessica Cartelia is covering the case, is live in New York. Jessica, what's new today?
Well, Nicole, the biggest moment since all of this happened was when Officer Stephen Fox from Altoona Police claimed that he was escorting Mangione out of a courtroom. This was his first appearance after he'd been arrested.
Okay, so this is his main attorney. Her name is Karen Agnifilo. Again, I told you she's the wife of Mark Agnifilo, who represented Sean Diddy Combs. This is what Luigi had on today. So this is all from the day. This is his secondary attorney sitting here to the left, and you can see the court officers that bring him in. These two bring him in each morning, and every time he has to come in and out of court.
Arrested when the accused shooter seemingly called himself a mass murderer. Officer Fox was being questioned by Assistant DA Joel Seidman, who.
Okay, so you hear what she said, that he's calling himself a mass murderer. I don't think that's the case. It wasn't strictly pinned down in court, but I believe that he was actually referring to Brian Thompson when he said, if he's.
Asked how he would characterize the media presence during Mangione's court appearance in Altoona following his arrest. And Officer Fox said the crowd was half the size of the crowd that's currently inside the Manhattan courtroom, but that there was a large media presence outside. And that's when he told the courtroom that Mangione looked back and said, all of these people here for a mass murderer? Wild. Mangione is only accused of one murder.
So again, I believe he's talking about Brian Thompson, because his whole motto, if this is true, and it was Luigi from all the big picture, is that he was upset because the insurance companies were allowing thousands of people to die every day for not getting the health care that they needed. So because he said at the top, this is why I believe he thought that Brian Thompson, if he truly said it, we're going to get to that, he thought that Brian Thompson was a mass murderer. Now, in court, Karen Agnifilo really pushed back on the officer, because the officer had his body camera on Fox, and they went through the entire day direct examining him and also cross-examining him. He stated that his body cam died, the battery died at some point while he took Mangione to court that night for his arraignment. His camera just happened to die before he could record any of this interaction that he's alleging. And he actually said that his camera wasn't really working. It was inside of the courtroom when Luigi, as she said, made this type of statement. But this statement is key, I believe, to this whole hearing. But I think they have the wrong spin on it.
So it's unclear if the officer misspoke when he recalled mass murderer, or if that's what Mangione actually said. It's even possible that Mangione was referring to Thompson, the United Healthcare
There you
CEO.
go. Now you see, that's it. Now she has it.
As the mass murderer. We know from his alleged writings that he had issues with the healthcare industry. Fox says at one point during the transport, he was walking too quickly for Mangione. Fox apologized and said, I'm sorry, I forgot you were shackled. And Fox told the courtroom today that Mangione replied, it's okay, I'm going to have to get used to it.
Now, I just want to tell you that Karen Agnifilo, she did a good job really with this point too, because she was having the officer explain the day. This officer Fox showed up, had his body cam. She questioned him throughout the day. Well, this officer, Fox, who is also the K9 officer, he's the individual that took Mangione to court that night, right? But the prosecutor was like, why are you bringing up all of these stories? And the judge was like, too, like, yeah, what are we getting to? And she really pushed back on the judge, and she pushed back on the prosecutor. She says, I want to show the entire day, and I want to go through all these questions because I want to show that Luigi Mangione throughout the entire day. He never fought back. He was never disrespectful to the police officers because you guys were trying to paint the picture that he was a major threat. And you also tried to paint the narrative that he had an explosive. I can't use the other word on YouTube. That would really be a problem, the B word. So these are all the facts. But when I tell you his attorney is solid, she's really good at what she does.
Overnight, more evidence was released, including scraps of paper with an alleged escape plan that Mangione had written.
So they showed this paperwork. This came out of his black book bag as well.
That included a map of Pittsburgh and the surrounding states, and then red-eye flights out of Pennsylvania as well. Notes on his to-do list include evading cameras for more than 3 hours, showing that he knew that he would be on security footage here in Manhattan. Also on that list, plucking his eyebrows, and you'll recall that's how he was recognized inside of that Altoona McDonald's. Mangione has been relaxed during the hearing so far from what we've seen inside the courtroom. He gave a fist bump yesterday to the cameras. And then during a contentious cross-examination of the officer who went through his backpack, his attorney was going back and forth with her. He removed his suit jacket. The pretrial hearing really giving us a good indication of what we can expect during the actual trial, a date which has.
Okay, so when they arrested him, he was wearing this necklace, they called it, and this is a USB drive that he had. And they let him know that whenever you're entered into court, arrested, you cannot wear a chain because it's a choking hazard.
Has yet to be determined. That's one of the things that's supposed to be decided this week. His attorneys argue several items were taken from Mangione before he was read his Miranda rights and should be thrown out, including his.
He had this little wallet, the blue one, looks like it came from Hawaii or some sort. He had taken a trip to Thailand, I believe, and also Vietnam. So maybe he picked it up there, but it was loaded with money. I'm pretty sure you'll see a photo of that too.
His backpack. Nicole.
Okay, so this is all the money that he had in that blue folder. And also behind this frame, you'll see he also had foreign currency as well. And one of the correctional officers on day one made the statement that Luigi confessed basically to having a printed gun, said he also had foreign currency, and that he was a foreign spy. So this is what the officer is claiming that Luigi told him. But ironically, this officer never told anyone else in regards to this. He just all of a sudden thought of it when it's time to come to court. So there's a lot of issues here with the officers. And the problem is there's 13 different officers, and as each one come in, the defense is really shredding them to pieces, showing that their stories are not even solid. It's really insane when you really think about that they're officers.
His defense team is also moving to suppress a ghost gun and a red journal that were inside.
So this is the printed gun. They call it the ghost gun because it has no serial number. Looks very similar, though, I will say, to the gun that we see in the video, but it's hard to pin it down. So we leave that to the professionals. We'll see what happens with this case.
His backpack. Prosecutors saying that that journal contains a lot of negative writing about health insurers.
All right, so Jessica, what are the chances that the backpack will be thrown out as evidence?
Yeah, good question, because everything seems to be centered around this backpack, right? At one point, you hear the Altoona Police Department officers talking on their.
Okay, One Love says Thailand and Vietnam. Yes, he is a suspect. All right, definitely. They feel like they have their man. When they arrested him, the main officer kept saying, this is 100% the New York City shooter. So they immediately, when they saw his face revealed and he dropped the mask, they knew it was him, according to the testimony of the officers.
Body cameras saying, do you think that we need a warrant?
Down here, you can see this is where we enter for court each day. It's not where Luigi comes through. I'm pretty sure they have a place for the prisoners. Donald Trump, when I covered his case, he actually would walk in a free man he was not arrested at the time. So unlike what I saw with Sean Diddy Combs, they came in with shackles. Luigi has shackles and so forth. Donald Trump walked in the courthouse just like we did through the same doors, and he walked away four felonies. The president at the time, he wasn't president at the time when he sat through this whole case, but I found that case to be interesting too. It was nice to be in the same courtroom with the former president as he was at that time. Now he's the president of the United States, but sitting behind him, I could see that he was sleeping all day long, pretty much knocked out. He didn't seem to be interested in the proceedings at all. There was one time when there was a big battle between Costello, I believe his name was, which was Donald Trump's attorney or potentially some sort of attorney, and the judge. They had a spar going back and forth, and the judge made all of us leave the courtroom. That was about the only exciting time, but this is at this same courthouse.
For this, Officer Wasser, who was on the stand yesterday, says that she wanted to check the backpack for a bomb, but you can see in the video that they showed a significant.
So here is Officer Wasser. You can see her, I believe, blonde hair. Yesterday, she was cross-examined too, and she's the one that was holding on to this whole idea that Luigi had a bomb, and this is how they were able to get around. One of the ways that they were able to get around having a warrant to go through his bags. And so the under cross-examination, Karen Agnifilo showed like, well, what compelled you to want to say that he has a bomb and you had to search his items there? Because keep in mind, they waited over 20 minutes before they Mirandized him, right? And so she said, well, when they asked him about his bag, he looked real funny or something. That's why we wanted to check for a bomb, right? Or I didn't want to say the word on YouTube. Explosive. But the Karen Agnifilo showed that if you look back at this frame, you were putting on your gloves much earlier to search his bags, even before what you're claiming. So you had every intention of going through his bags because you wanted to be the person to say, I found the pow pow. I don't want to say the word. I found the pow pow from Luigi Mangione. You see what I'm saying? So even though the officers are coming in, they feel strong. I watch each of them take the heat and pressure because Karen Agnifilo is one hell of an attorney. I'll tell you that right now.
Amount of time elapses during the arrest and before she actually goes inside the backpack, suggesting, according to the defense, that there really wasn't an urgency.
So you can see she has her gloves on. She's checking through the bag. She did find the bullets, but they did not find the pow pow, right? Until all of a sudden, when they came to the precinct, she's like, oh, and he has pow pow too, right? So Karen Agnifilo showed how perhaps they had stopped along the way because originally the officer today named Fox, he took all of the book bag and they also had a big McDonald's bag with all of the incidentals for Luigi Mangione. He was the one, the K9 officer that was on today. He was appointed to take these items. He had the chain of custody to take these items from McDonald's back to the precinct. He received a call from Lieutenant Hanley. And so at this point, he had to come back to McDonald's. So he called Wasser, this lady here, and they met along the way to exchange Luigi Mangione's items. Ironically, neither one of them had on their camera. So you see why people are so upset when they hear this type of stuff coming from officers. According, I guess, to the rule book and also the chain of custody, a lot of people are saying it would have been wise to have their cameras on showing every inch of the way so that people couldn't say if Mangione says something went missing, you would at least have Mangione being there when the items were opened up, and then you'd have the camera trace all the way back to the precinct or to the jail. So when they exchange the items, the argument of Karen Agnifilo is that they went through Luigi's stuff on side the road or wherever they met, and that's when they found the pow pow, right? So she's making strong arguments that look very suspect and also making people question the activities or the involvement of officers. Because at some point in time, you're going to know someone that gets arrested. And it's good to know how these things work. So when you go to these type of cases, you learn a lot of details.
agency. Officer Wasser also testified that what she did was a search incident to an arrest, which is in fact legal. The prosecution clarified that multiple.
So let me explain, and we're going to have the criminal defense attorney Calvin explain this on Sunday. But she did a search incident to arrest. So basically, when you do that, and basically they said whenever they arrest someone, they have this search incident to arrest. So basically, they can go through your stuff. That's just a part of the process, right? And they don't need a warrant to do so. So that's what this whole terminology is about, because they're trying to say, well, we didn't need a warrant. We didn't jeopardize Mr. Mangione at all, because this is just a normal process that everyone goes through. Guys, take a moment to hit the like button, share, and subscribe if you like to go over these type of cases. One Love says suspension isn't illegal. Okay. One Love says, I blame McDonald's for selling Pow Pow nuggets. Yeah, tell me about it, right? And Matrix says, reasonable doubt. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for your input. All right. So we're going to keep moving here before we wrap this up.
Search warrants were eventually obtained. Another thing that keeps coming up, Nicole, is during cross-examination of these Altoona officers are words that they use like, this is awesome, or did we expletive get him?
Yeah, so these officers are bragging. They're so excited to get Luigi Mangione. They're saying, this is effing great. This is effing awesome. The officer today, according to Karen Agnifilo, the attorney, she says at some point when you're driving, you said, this is the arrest of a lifetime, something like that. She asked him, did he say it on his camera? And he was like, oh, well, I don't think I said that, but she said it was confirmed on his body cam. Another thing that's happening in this case that I find pretty different is that the prosecutor keeps saying that Luigi Mangione executed Brian Thompson. So he's using this terminology, and the defense keeps pushing back, saying you have to tell the judge, can you stop him from using these terms, right? But the judge says this is a hearing and not the trial. And he reprimanded the prosecutor or told him that during the trial, you can't use the terminology of, uh, execution or manifesto, because Luigi Mangione, probably on the next video, you'll see he had a little red journal, and the prosecutor keeps saying manifesto, manifesto. And these words in cases, they have a big effect, especially if they're said in front of the jury. Okay, so Donnie says Luigi is a back shooter, worst kind of coward. Okay, that's what the officer said today. So you guys have the same sentiment. One Love says only after you're arrested can they proceed with full search. Anything prior is eye level only. Okay, well, they really, they crossed some lines here. So we'll have to see how this plays out. So let's check out this next video I want to go through, and hopefully we get more body camera footage. So this footage here is while they're driving in the car, I guess, taking the call. There's no sound with this one, perhaps. Okay. So this is the officer when they're taking the first call. You can see the two officers in the car. The guy that's getting out on the right-hand side, his name is Officer Fry, and the driver. He's Officer Detwilder right here. He's the main officer, and he's training Officer Fry. Right now we're looking through the vantage point of Officer Fry's body cam, and so they're walking into McDonald's. And at this point, although there's no sound, Fry says, "I see Luigi sitting over there," and that's why they go in this corner. Now, the reason why we had no sound is because immediately when they turn on the body cam, there's no sound for 1 minute. So that's why we did not have sound. Okay, Stella says, enjoy what you're watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and consider becoming a member. Okay, thank you very much. So now they're approaching the area where they think the New York shooter is sitting.
Yes, sir.
Now, you notice the officer walks toward the bathroom in court. He says he did that because he didn't want to alarm Luigi Mangione, as it turns out. And so he just did that as a little distraction. And also, he wanted to kind of get a glance at his face.
There you go. Can you put your mask down real quick for me? Yeah, sure. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. What's your name? Mark.
So, for you guys who have followed this case, does this look like the New York shooter to you? Tell me what you think. Would you think, as this officer did, 100% that this is the New York shooter based on when he pulled down his mask versus what you've seen? Now, one good point is that these officers both, and even the officer Fox today, they all state that they originally saw the New York shooter on Fox. That's the only news basically that they follow from what I could gather.
What is it? Mark. Mark? Yes, sir. Mark what? Rosario. Rosario? Someone called. They thought you were suspicious. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have your ID on you? Yeah, yes, sir. Thanks.
Now, at this point, Luigi's grabbing for his ID, and it's a fake ID. So this is the first point, and this is what they're going to use to have the basis to arrest him.
Probably should look like someone guilty to run the camera. Player 6, 2729 out of New Jersey.
Now, you see these individuals all around walking, they're sitting around. The officers try to make an argument that they're looking for an explosive, and this is the reason why they went through his items. But the defense kept showing various clips of how you let people walk around McDonald's right by the backpack. If you thought it had an explosive, why didn't you clear McDonald's? Why didn't you call the explosive squad? I don't want to use the B word. Why didn't you call the squad? Or, why didn't you take different measures? Or why didn't you take the book bag outside? You're just going to let it go off and all these innocent people be affected. So that was a point that came out. Now I want to go back a little bit. I want to show you something. Here's another issue. You see where Luigi's sitting here in the corner, right? I've been telling you guys about it. He's sitting in the corner. These two officers pretty much stand in front of him the entire time. Then you get an additional 11 officers that pretty much cloud this entire area. They're all just trying to get a glimpse of the guy or perhaps get into the TV clip or whatever motive they could have had, or maybe they were just doing their job. But the defense showed that Luigi could not leave even if he wanted to. So that's the big argument. They're trying to say he was free to leave, but how could he leave? Karen Agnifilo says you have all these men here in police garb and they have firearms. So how in the world could he leave? So there's a good chance that some of these items will be suppressed based on the information that's coming out in court. So this is the other point is you can see the table that's behind him. This is where they ultimately put his book bag, and they're trying to say that they had a right to go through his stuff. Number one, he's sitting there, right? And they ultimately, when I told you that the female officer started going through his items, it's on this table back here. Now, just to show you how sharp, well, I'm just giving you guys a point. If you look here at Luigi, when the officer walked up, he had a laptop on his lap. But the police officer in court was saying that the laptop was on the table. And so the attorney, because he made that little error, she was able to use it to show that basically you don't know what you're talking about. So a lot of that comes out in court with the cross-examination as well. Let's keep going here.
Thought she looked like someone guilty to.
One Love, is New York a stop and ID state? Yes, but this is in Pennsylvania, so they have a different set of rules, okay? Sean Bradley says, because they haven't found anything yet. Okay. All right. Bordeaux says, I hate lying. Okay. Holding it down, Stella. Okay, very good. One Love says, suspicion is not a crime. What a great point. But as they mentioned in court, just because he was wanted in New York did not give them the right to just go and arrest him. And so the officers seem like they're trying to skirt around to say, oh, the only reason we're aggressively going after him is because he gave a fake ID. And so today, Karen Agnifilo did a really good job with the officer, because she really showed how they seem to have other motives with the arrest, because the officer did find a knife, but he found it after the point of searching him. They didn't really want to say that put handcuffs on him until he said he wanted to exercise his right to be silent. It's almost like the officer was agitated. So they were like, okay, so you don't want to cooperate? Because this officer that was there today, Fox, he walked up while Luigi is sitting there, and he's asking these auxiliary questions like, why did you lie? Why you have a fake ID? And then he was like, okay, let's Mirandize him, right? And so once he's Mirandized, they start asking him more questions. And Luigi's like, I'm not talking, basically. I want to speak to an attorney or what have you. And that's when they threw him into the handcuffs. So his attorney is doing a good job at really breaking this down and making the officers look quite bad, I must say. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I'm just telling you what I observed. Okay, Sean says, because they haven't found anything yet. Okay, why you are not like me. Okay, looks like we have a few bots in here. One Love says, in New York, you're not required to show ID to police unless you're driving or suspected of a crime. If you're stopped on the street, you can politely ask if you're free to leave. But like you say, Pennsylvania, yes, indeed.
26, 27, 29 out of New Jersey. Romeo 60 07 521.
Okay, so we're going to go to this last video, see what we can glean for it before we complete this discussion. So let's see what footage is on this video release.
About evidence in his upcoming murder trial. Today, our first look at the body camera video from the Altoona police officers who responded to the McDonald's where the alleged killer was eventually taken into custody. Eyewitness News reporter Darla Miles has been in court all day, has more now on this release, plus other evidence defense lawyers are trying to keep the jury from seeing at some point during the court proceedings. Darla?
Oh my goodness, here goes Darla. I know Darla quite well. She's an awesome individual, I will tell you that.
That's right, Mike. The video that you just played, that body cam video, that is what we've been...
She also did a great job covering Sean Diddy Combs' trial as well. She is awesome.
Watching.
She's been doing this 30 years. Can you imagine that? 30 years.
Every day since this hearing started about a week ago, both the defense and the prosecution are really scrutinizing. They're dissecting it even, going frame by frame to see the actions of these Altoona police officers. Prosecutors say they were by the book. The defense say they were not. Luigi Mangione returning to a lower Manhattan courtroom for days.
Okay, so there I am sitting on the back row. Okay, you can see these back two rows where I'm sitting at is where a lot of Luigi fans are. Okay, and these front rows is mostly the legal team.
5 of an evidentiary hearing, now seeing for the first time what prosecutors call a manifesto and other writings they say implicate him in the murder of Brian Thompson, calling this hand-drawn map an escape.
So on record, what you just saw was a journal, but the prosecutors keep calling it a manifesto because they want to paint Luigi as a monster, which is, you know, what you would imagine, right?
Escape route marking 7 Midwestern cities.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it.
And we're getting our very first look at the body cam video of the first 2 officers to respond to the 911 call.
Someone called. They thought you were suspicious. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have your ID on you?
And completely out of touch.
Today, hearing from Altoona police officer Stephen Fox, seen here.
So let me explain to you why they say that the officers had lied, right? When the officer is kind of trying to figure out what's going on with Luigi, he says that McDonald's had called and complained that he had been sitting in the lobby too long, in the dining hall too long. Luigi reached to his receipt and showed that he had only been there 40 minutes. The officer also said within the last week, they had been there 6 times because people are just sitting on the internet or whatever. They're just sitting there too long. So all of these points, the officer also told him, "Oh, we got to get to this next assignment, this next case, and I don't know what's taking Blair County, which is the county, the dispatcher, to get back to us." All of these turned out to be lies. And as I started off this program with, the second officer, Officer Fry, he pretty much showed that when he went through his schooling in Indiana for 6 months for the new officers, that they teach the officers it's okay to lie, it's okay to create a ruse to get the truth out of individuals. Now, here's the issue that I find. The defense attorney, Karen Agnifilo, is tripping these officers up left and right. So it makes them look like they're not being truthful on the stand. So how does that work? They teach you can lie to the regular civilian just to get your point of interest, but do they teach you can lie on the stand? And I think when it comes to the trial that starts January the 9th, I think she's going to cook their boots if they don't come clean and start telling what actually happened. Okay, Brian Cantrell, welcome in. I was wondering where you're at, Brian. Good to see you. Brian is in the building. He said that's true. One Love says folks sit in McDonald's for hours. Yes, indeed. They sit in there for hours at a time. Okay. Says, okay. That says, where's the rule on McDonald's saying you can't be there for more than 40 minutes? Right. But the officers under cross-examination, they admitted it was all a lie. But it doesn't go good. And I don't think it's going to go well for the jury because that's what happened in Sean Diddy Combs' case. A lot of things that people thought the jury would be like wowed by, they didn't like it at all. And I think it's the reason why he was able to get those 3 main charges thrown out. Okay. That says, did she remove the poster's free Wi-Fi? Nope, none of that is relevant because it was all a ruse. It was all a lie. So, but I'm glad you guys are getting the point of how they actually operate. Let's get back to this video.
Here holding the door for Mangione during a prisoner transfer, testifying, he looked back at the crowd and said, "All these people here for a mass murderer? Wild." And that Mangione told him, "It's okay. I have to get used to it," referring to the
So again, folks, when he says this statement, all these people here for a mass murder, wild, I think he's referring to Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, because the thought process is that the insurance companies allow people to pass away, thousands a day, because they don't approve people for necessary surgeries and health care and treatment. So that's what this seems to be about. Although we'll find out
Shackles on his
perhaps as
ankles.
time
Fox
goes.
is one of the officers who responded to the 911 call at this Pennsylvania McDonald's, telling the court initially he was not convinced it was the New York City.
Okay, so if you notice Luigi in this frame, he's sitting there eating. I think at this point he's eating a hash brown, but he's also eating a steak. Okay, so at some point, Officer Detwilder he says to Luigi, "Are you eating the steak?" Luigi says, "Yes." Officer Detwilder says the steak is my favorite. So under cross examination, Karen Agnifilo, which is excellent attorney, she says to him, when you said that you liked the steak, were you lying or were you telling the truth? So everybody started laughing because we're used to hearing that these guys are just lying, lying, lying to Luigi. Now, that's whether you like it or not. I'm just telling you, these are some of the things that are coming out in court. Okay. So it's not a
shooting,
strike at the
calling the
police
murder an
officers or
act of
any of that. I'm just stating some of the point of interest that come out in court.
violence that killed a defenseless human being. Fox is seen in body cam video putting Mangione
So you see, when he's being searched, you have three officers behind him. They keep showing all of these frames to show he had no way of leaving, even if he wanted to. And this is going to be a problem. And I think they might get some of the items suppressed. And if these items get suppressed, who knows what could happen. But ultimately, he has two cases in New York, federal in this case, and then also he has cases in Pennsylvania with 5 charges, major charges. So we'll see what happens.
in handcuffs after reading him his Miranda rights and searching his backpack. Prosecutors asking, at any point did Sergeant Burns say, stop, stop, go get a warrant? Fox answering, no, he did not. Did Corporal Miller say, stop, you need a warrant? Again answering, no, he did not.
Okay, so the warrant is the issue. Okay, Brian says, I'm sure the jury will see the video. Yes, indeed. Hello to you, Brian. Okay, One Love says his eyebrows look guilty. Oh man, One Love is too funny. All right, Brian Cantrell says One Love funny. Okay, Bordeaux says I like to give that look. LOL. Okay, Vat says little details count on the court. Okay, One Love says facts to you, Brian. Okay, all right. So let's finish this up and we'll be done
And Fox
for tonight.
is heard in body cam video asking Mangione at 9:47, why did you lie about your name? Mangione answering, I clearly shouldn't have. Then asking again at 9:49, why do you have a fake ID? Mangione says, remaining silent. But Mangione's attorney insists this interaction was a violation of his constitutional rights, asking, you were questioning him, correct? Also criticizing how Fox Mirandized Mangione. Keeping all these rights in mind, do you wish to speak to me? You didn't say those words. Fox answering, I know there are different versions. And Fox getting a bit feisty on cross-examination about another officer on the scene asking if they needed a warrant. Fox testifying, I'm not going to sit there and continue arguing with them. I know what can be done, and they were wrong. We did not need a search warrant.
So it's quite apparent that even the officers, they were arguing between each other, or they had a disagreement about whether or not to get a warrant in order to search his items. So all of this is going to play out in the trial. I've seen the Agnifilos at work, especially with Diddy's case. And one thing I noticed about Mark Agnifilo, and the reason
And
why
also on cross-examination.
and the reason why I think he was able to win big with Diddy is because he was able to connect with the jury. He's more of a conversationalist. He gets down on the level with the jury members. He used a lot of conversation. Sometimes I saw there was one time in Diddy's trial where he started crying. He couldn't even get his words out when he was talking about a letter that Mia had wrote Diddy. So the lawyer's actually crying in court. I mean, I also saw another attorney cry. Well, when I say cry, I'm talking about, you know how it is when you get choked up, you can't get your words out. We call that crying. So, Westmoreland, she did that on the final day of Diddy's trial as well, or at least, let's see, it was for his sentencing. She was actually crying for an extended period of time, maybe like 20 minutes, I counted. So, all of this goes into getting your client out of trouble or setting them free. I guess that's the type of attorney you want, right? That says, is a little detail to set you free in court. Okay. One Love says, eating a steak from McDonald's would definitely check his mental health. Man, you're too funny. Candyman, shout out to you. Nice to have you here. It says, it's a private business, 1 minute, 1 hour. They have the right to have you removed. Okay. That's one way of looking at it. Okay, Eric says, I just came to remind you all that the Democrats' logo is a jackass for a reason. Okay, so he had to come and let us know about the Democrats. Thank you, Eric. We couldn't do it without you. One Love says, lawyers cry in court when they see how much the bill is. Oh, my goodness. Yes, indeed. Okay, Stella says hi to Battle and Eric. Okay. All right. So pretty much that's it when it comes to this particular case. Right now, we're just at the hearing stage. There's not a lot of interest in the case as much as will be when the trial happens. But at any rate, for those who wanted to know some of the details of what's happening in court, one thing I will point out is that on the first day, there was probably collectively 100 young people, I would say mostly females, interested in the case or what have you. By today, we only had maybe 10 people getting in. So I think people are trying to balance their work schedule, their travel. They're coming from all over the United States. So that's something that, just to give you a little background, it's freezing cold out there each morning. Tomorrow, there's no court, but each morning I film as I'm commuting down. Some days I drive, some days I take public transportation, the train, because the other day when I drove, just think about this. For me to get from the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, where the World Trade Centers fell, it takes me an hour just to get to the George Washington Bridge. Can you imagine that? That's how much traffic, and you can't even get through, and there's so many delays, and it's just chaotic. So it's easier to get down just by hopping on a train. So these cases are, they each have their own little uniqueness to it. One Love says, appreciate your due diligence, Mel. Thank you. Shout out to you for your support. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for all you do as well. Vado says, thank you for the welcome. Yes, indeed. Come back and check us out anytime. As I said, no court tomorrow. I do have a show tomorrow night with Candace Kelly. We're going to talk about this too. She is a law professor. She teaches at the university, so it's nice to be able to ask her questions from a legal standpoint. We're trying to build some momentum up for this particular case. I don't think it's going to be anywhere close to Sean Diddy Combs. What do you guys think about the Netflix series on Sean Diddy Combs? Have any of you guys watched it? Tell me if you watched the Netflix series and what do you think? Do you think it actually hurt his persona or did it help him in some way? Vado says, thank you for sharing the videos when you travel. All right, I'm going to be traveling again. I'm headed to the pyramids out in Egypt. So I switched from Greece. I'm going to Egypt now. And I'll go to Greece after that. So if you guys are interested in seeing what's happening over in Egypt, going to Alexandria, it's going to be nice. We will touch, I believe, some parts of Greece and maybe the outskirts of Italy, but I'm not sure. But I do know the pyramids are on deck. This is where a lot of these religions started, so we're going to check it out. Bordeaux says, I've only watched reviews on it. Okay, One Love says, yeah, I've had enough of Diddy, so I can't sit and watch it. And plus, one thing I'll tell you about Sean Diddy Combs, right? Most of the people that followed his case at the courthouse, they don't give their real names. So obviously they have something to hide, right? But they want to talk about Diddy every day. But they won't give their one time or two. We had to give our real names to get into the courthouse, and some people just refused to go into the courthouse because they didn't want to give their real name. So it just goes to show most people have things about their life they don't like or mistakes they've made, but it's always easy to cover somebody else. I covered the case, and that's what I'm interested in doing, just like with this case, but I don't want to get so deep. Like there are some individuals that cover Diddy every day, and like the case has been over for months now, right? And every day, Diddy, 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 that can't be healthy for your brain cells. All right, so Bordeaux says, great to see you, Brian Cantrell. Okay. All right. Vado says, I'll be more than happy to get educated tomorrow. Okay, all right. Very good. No court tomorrow. We will be back in court on Thursday and Friday of this week. One of the individuals that was at the trial with me, his name is James Sanders. He passed away on the 4th, I believe, the 3rd. And I was at court with him like every day. In fact, the first day I went, I met him. And unfortunately, he passed away. He used to be a student of Candace Kelly, who is often on this show. She's a good fixture on this show. So he passed away. We'll be going to his funeral this Saturday. So can you imagine you spend 9 weeks of your life covering Diddy's trial and whatever else, and then shortly thereafter you pass away? Life is very uncertain. You never know what tomorrow could bring, right? Bordeaux says, rest in peace. Yes, indeed. Okay. Mama Flip says, I was in court yesterday and today. The officers spend their time talking about Fox News. A K9 cop was the one who officially detained him. It's going to be Fox News cops against Luigi. Yes, indeed. That's what it's going to be. And we look forward to having Mama Flip on. Guys, go follow her channel. It's actually, Bordeaux, can you put her channel in the chat? Yeah, okay, there we go. Mama Flips. I think it's Slots, right? I think it's Mama's Flips Slots. So, guys, go support her channel as well. It's nice to have her on board as well. Stella, thank you very much for that too. So, she was in court, Mama Flip. So, she's backing up what I was saying in regards to this case. All of these police officers basically say they watch Fox News, and that's where they gathered the pictures of Luigi Mangione, right? Isn't that something? So stay tuned tomorrow night. We'll be on. Oh, news at noon tomorrow. You can tune in for that. Get a free day to cover the news at noon. Thursday night at 8 o'clock, we'll have Mama Flip on, and we'll be talking about those topics that a lot of the watchers want to know, especially when it comes to Donald Trump and MAGA and so much more, so much more. Mama Flip says, thank you to Bordeaux. I've been out sick with the flu. Okay, we hope you feel better. Guys, that's her link in the chat. Make sure you click on the link and go subscribe, go like, go show her some love. She shows us love. Mama Flip says they called him a killer. They all rushed to McDonald's to be heroes. So you guys see what I'm saying, right? I can't wait till Thursday night to hear her come on and tell you guys the same things that I'm saying. Vado says, I love respect to the family. Yes, indeed. Bordeaux says, I pray for quick recovery for you. Okay, very good. All right, guys. Well, that's it for tonight. We've covered Luigi Mangione. I think we touched on, the big points. There was so much to cover, but I do think that these police officers are going to be real uncomfortable when it comes to this trial. Now, does it take away from what happened to Brian Thompson? No, that's not what we're talking about. we're talking about the fact that as an American citizen, people have rights, right? Even those that commit crimes. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes. So we're going to keep breaking down this case. And I can't wait to have my guest on this week. We have Mama Flip in the chat. So as I said, definitely show her some support as well. Good night to you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in with me tonight. I'm talking about a case that we're trying to bring awareness to. And I know there's a lot of people that have dealt with serious matters, health problems, or family members that go through cancer, diabetes, and they don't get the proper treatment, or the treatment comes too slow. And sometimes it costs people their lives. So whether you're interested in Luigi or not, I think the healthcare dilemma should be a big factor that's floating somewhere in your mind as well. But most people want to hear about what's going on with Candy and her husband getting a divorce, and what's going on with the rappers and this and that, just all this gossip, and they're not really concerned about these weightier matters that involve healthcare in this country that we live in, and also helping us to navigate through life, especially when it comes to the economy and dealing with Donald Trump. Now, I'm going to leave Donald Trump to Mama Flip when she come on Thursday. I know she will not hold back. One Love says police don't really know the Constitution or the law. Well, the officer today, Karen Agnifilo, had to ask him, do you have a law degree? Because he was trying to assert, he was just asserting himself over her as to different cases and people, places, and things. But she really humbled him. Bordeaux says, I'm tired of gossip channels. Yes. And I think we have to get used to talking about the weightier matters, because people don't want to hear about that either. And there's, well, I won't go there, but I'll save that for another day. But a lot of people are just not interested in Luigi Mangione. I thought this case would be, really popping because of the healthcare segment, and he called himself going to fight back for the people or for himself and show corporate America you can't do the lowly or the poor wrong. But people just say this guy's a murderer, and they keep moving. So that's what it is, folks. Bordeaux says, I'm following what is happening with Candace. Yeah, that's another case that's out of control. And I don't know how that's going to go for her. But that's a lot of people definitely tune in for that, but I opted not to cover it. Brian Cantrell says, much respect to the chat room. God bless. Good night. All right. Bordeaux says, I'm still interested in Luigi. Me too. So that's why I'm going to cover it, especially as we approach the time of the trial. So good night, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. It was nice to have you. And I will be bringing you the latest updates. On Thursday, we'll be back in the courtroom, but tomorrow is business as usual. We'll cover the news at noon. Tomorrow night, we have Candace Kelly coming on at 8 o'clock to talk about Luigi. And then on Thursday night, we have Mama Flip coming on to talk about everything, especially Donald Trump and all the things that are happening in our country, right? Thank you. Be well and have a great night. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. painting the night. United we